Okay, hello there, and welcome to Mythophiles, where we talk about stories of all kinds. So, this is our special Christmas episode. So, I am Duncan Gale, and I'm here with my Christmas dog, Mickey. He's in his Christmas sweater here. He looks like he's really happy to be here right now, but maybe he'll be happier later. So, that's me, and my co-host.
Cody Decker. I don't have pets. I don't like taking care of things. You know what? Before we started, your dog was like putting its head on your shoulder, and be like, "Oh," and then the second bit, and then it's like, "God, get me out of here."
That's right. Yeah, yeah. It's just like a child. You can't depend on him to perform when the cameras are actually on. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
But yeah, but he's in his Christmas sweater here. You can see here. So and he seems to be
hey, there he
tolerating that.
goes.
Yeah. So there he is. Yeah, yeah.
I guess we're good.
So
It's a very you dog.
oh yeah, how so?
It's just like that is it's kind of got like your hair texture, and it's like
Oh yeah,
that is you as a dog.
that's right. Yeah, no, yeah, I feel like we have a lot. We have a lot in common in terms of basic disposition. But
I have an action figure I can have as a pet.
oh yeah, there's little Venom there. So
Yeah. Uh,
wishing us a Merry Christmas. Yeah.
I mean, even taking care of these, I'm kind of like, I don't really want to do that. But I'll tell you, it's in the spirit of Christmas.
Uh-huh.
We're going to talk about Christmas.
That's right. We're going to talk about Christmas. We're going to talk about our favorite Christmas movies or specials. Yeah. So that's basically what we're at.
Yeah, because
Where we're at today.
I was
Mhm.
really excited. I was like, oh yeah, we'll talk about our top three, and then I realized I don't really like Christmas movies, so I had to pick like a special. Because I already ran out of stuff that I enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of genuinely good Christmas movies, um, they maybe are a bit few and far between, but yeah, we'll see if we can address them here. So yeah, we're just going to go through our top three, I guess. And so I guess you want to start or
Yeah, so I this was kind
yeah,
of like I need a third one, but
right?
I'll tell you what I don't like. First of all, was Christmas with the Cranks. I really don't like that movie, but
Oh yeah, yeah. I actually just watched that. Yeah.
it's a very strange movie. It's a very it's almost like a horror film. But my third favorite
Hmm.
is the Futurama Christmas special
Ah, yes.
with Kwanzaa
Yeah.
Bot.
Hmm. Yeah, with a berserk Santa Claus robot on a murderous rampage. Yeah.
Because he's an actual robot that's been programmed by I think they said China to
Right.
create to actually be Santa, and he
Hmm.
determined that everyone qualifies as naughty, which I do think,
Right.
especially if you're given the childhood qualifications for what being naughty is, I
Hmm.
think everyone would fail because it
Yeah.
would. You're only nice to get for Christmas time, and then people you act like that's when the list starts. But he's been checking the list like twice all year long, and everyone
Oh, yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a year-long tally, and yeah, in terms of just the way that we would behave normally, unreflectively, not thinking about Santa Claus. Yeah, it turns out it's always going to fall into the naughty ledger there. Yeah.
Yeah, I have yet to see a Christmas movie handle that about the fact that there was like 11 other months. I
Right.
did a premise for the guys like I need to make up for 11 months of being naughty, and then
That's right. That's right.
I guess that's what Scrooge is as well.
A little bit. Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. Or you must be a future on my head.
Yeah, I actually have only gotten into it somewhat recently. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't watching it that much when it was originally on, but yeah, I've definitely grown to appreciate it quite a bit. Yeah, and I think at its best, yeah, it's just as good. It's just as funny as the Simpsons in terms of the overall writing and there's some great characters on there. So yeah.
And I maintain with The Simpsons and Futurama, like if you listen to the DVD commentary, it's much funnier.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah. I'm familiar with the Simpsons commentaries. Yeah. I've never listened to the Futurama commentaries, but yeah. Okay.
yeah, it's a lot of them saying we didn't have time to add this joke in, and
Right.
you're like, but this is a comedy, shouldn't that be your priority? They're like, yeah, this was a really funny joke, but we couldn't. We had to make way for the plot.
Right. Well, yeah. So yeah, as I recall from the Futurama Christmas special, yeah, it's a lot about um how different Christmas is 1,000 years in the future, right? And how I believe it's now Xmas, right? That's just the official name of Christmas. It's not actually Christmas anymore. It's just
They just,
Xmas.
yeah, it's just X.
Mhm.
I don't think anyone knows what it's about anymore.
Right,
Which,
right.
yeah, I think that's true now. Uh,
Hmm. Yeah.
yeah, it is. It could be its own movie because it's like Fry is from the year 2000, 1999 or whatever,
Hmm.
and he's seeing the future the way they treat Christmas or Xmas, and he's very So the whole episode is just him being, that's not what Christmas is about, because
Right.
now it's about fortifying your home,
Right.
to protect it from an invasion from Santa Claus.
Right. Yeah. It's basically just become Silent Night, Deadly Night, which is a movie that I haven't seen, but as far as I know, the premise of it is basically about a guy dressed up as Santa Claus that goes around murdering people. And
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I was thinking it's like the opposite of the Purge, where you have
Uh-huh.
one day a year where everyone just prepares for like Santa or for one guy to just
Right.
break into your home and attack you. So everyone spends, like
Right.
everyone's excited, but they're like, I think I'm gonna get him this time. That's the fun thing too, is they're like, I got a machine gun. I think I'm really gonna, because also they're all trying to kill Santa Claus because
Right.
so it there's a it yeah
Hmm.
everyone's just preparing for a home invasion, which I guess is very similar to Home Alone.
Okay. Oh, okay. So, uh, all right. So are we done talking about that, or
No,
anything else
I
you like?
just realized I guess I should have saved that for the end. But, but also that's my thoughts on it. It's very similar. It's like combining like if Home Alone was the Purge and like everybody prepared for two robbers to break into your home for Christmas.
Hmm.
That's what Christmas in the year 3000 is like.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. So, yeah, that's definitely a Christmas special that is very sort of self-consciously getting very far away from the original sort of religious meaning of Christmas, which is fine with me. Yeah, I mean, as long as I can remember, I mean, yeah, even as a kid, like I definitely grew up knowing that Christmas was a religious holiday as well as all of the other stuff, but I remember, yeah, whenever the religious stuff started getting brought up, I was like, oh, okay, this is the boring stuff. Yeah, like the nativity scenes and all that stuff. It's like, yeah, okay. Can we get to Santa Claus and Frosty the Snowman, all that stuff? I mean, yeah. So yeah, it seems like Futurama is kind of the logical sort of extreme of that. It's like, yeah, no, it's not even, yeah, the Christ is not even in Christmas anymore. It's just Xmas now, and it's just
Yeah.
about a killer robot on the loose. And yeah, and we don't. That's what the holiday is. Yeah. So
To see he lives on Neptune with his army of slave elves. That
right.
they do
Uh-huh.
make gifts, but
Hmm.
no one qualifies as good for them, so they just make weapons for him now.
That's right. Yeah.
So they want to make gifts. That's a that's a hot thing in Santa parodies where it's like he's actually a slave master, and it's
Right.
like maybe that's the one of the time like you can ease up on that. That's he's not a they're elves, they're magical, they like doing it.
Right, right. Well, yeah, but they're happy slaves. They
Yeah.
sing while they work. So, they can't really be slaves, right? It
Your heart.
also relates to yeah, in the Harry Potter series, the elves and the house elves are actually
Also,
there's
Harry
some
Potter is one of those things you
yeah,
go through and you're like, yeah, there's a race of goblins that run the economy,
right.
right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and they have suspiciously hooked noses. It's almost like yeah, conjuring up a specific stereotype. Yeah. Who'd have known that J.K. Rowling actually had a lot of problematic views? Well, we know that now. Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, that's I loved when I found that. I was like, and it's just
Mhm.
that's just the way it is in this world. Like, yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm. Yeah.
Score one for JK. Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, the this is also it's a what I like about this is because it's largely a joke, and then there's like the Kwanzaa bot that who is just
Oh,
a like so they did the Santa bot that was a failure. Someone
hmm.
else did Kwanzaa bot and it actually worked. And there
Right.
is a robot spreading around Kwanzaa cheer, but the issue is no one knows what Kwanzaa is.
Right.
Um, so he
Yeah.
hands out a pamphlet that says what the hell is Kwanzaa with like two
Oh
kids
yeah.
shrugging.
Right.
And he
Right.
hands that out to the kids every
Mm-hmm.
year until eventually people will know. And he's just like, yeah, it's I can't really do much until people figure out what Kwanzaa is about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. Right. So yeah. Yeah. Great.
I do know that's voiced by Crulio.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The Kwanzaa bot. Yeah, yeah, I believe you're right. Yeah, that's Coolio. Yeah, and then the Santa bot is voiced by John Goodman. So yeah,
And
some good. Mhm.
the background for that casting is Coolio was like on The Simpsons, and he was like, I want to be on the next project you guys do. And so when they
Right.
did Futurama, they were like, "You want to be Quan's butt?" And he was like, "Yes."
Mhm. Yeah.
That's the true. That's a bit one bit of trivia I know. And at the end, they do discover the meaning of Christmas, which is like sheltering together in terror of Santa. Uh,
Right.
so it's
Yeah.
this thing where it's like, you know, it is because it's like we're gonna be invaded. So it's best
Mhm.
if you gather in large groups, like the largest you can. So it's
Right.
like family gatherings have kind of become like more of a thing in the future, in this far off future, because now it's like
Hmm.
well, we have to go to their house. They're the ones with like all the security and stuff.
Right.
So
So,
it's
yeah.
everyone.
Strength in
Yeah.
numbers. Yeah. So yeah.
So if anything, if you ignore the fact that he's killed people, uh, it's beneficial. And Bender tries to be Santa Claus, and it doesn't work.
Right.
Uh, the big plot is a drunk robot tries to be Santa, and
Hmm.
everyone's too terrified of him to accept actual gifts. And
Right.
then
Right.
he gets sentenced to be executed by magnetic chair,
Hmm.
and then it's a it's kind of an out there plot. And then they all come in and are I'm Santa, and then that's the show.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's in the follow up one. I guess is that. Um,
I
yeah,
watched all
because
of them in a row.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So that I really was like, man, I don't have a third one, but that's how I'll start it. And so yeah, speaking of
Okay,
home invasions once a year, what's your number
okay.
three?
All right, yes. So my number three is Home Alone, the original. Yeah, starring Macaulay Culkin and with great performances by Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern as the robbers. Yeah, also got Catherine O'Hara in there as the mother. Um, yeah, so I mean, Home Alone is one of those movies. Yeah, from my childhood, from my generation. Yeah, this was a huge movie. I saw it in the theater when it first came out. I mean, Macaulay Culkin is I think like maybe a year or two older than me. So yeah, I'm right in that generation. Um, it's definitely one of those movies that I feel like there's been a certain amount of backlash to it. I think maybe just because of how popular it was, and there's certain things about it that people regard as a little bit ridiculous. I mean, especially I think the famous scene where he actually sets the traps and everything, and it's like, yeah, how could a kid do that? Yada yada yada. But I think with the passage of time, this has become more of a just unqualified holiday classic, and I think it's a fun movie. I mean, obviously, I have a lot of nostalgia about it from my childhood, but it's one of those movies that at this point, like, there's all these different beats to it, and it's like I know every beat of it, and I know every sort of plot development, and just seeing how it all fits together is very satisfying. I think uh, the sort of most interesting thing is seeing the circumstances surrounding how Macaulay Culkin actually gets left home alone, and how
It's a
basically, uh-huh,
it's a very intricate premise.
it is, yeah, absolutely, yeah, yeah. And I actually remember listening to a podcast where somebody had actually tallied up all of the different things that have to actually go wrong in order for him to be left home alone. And so it's basically, yeah, that early on in the movie, when they're all having pizza for dinner the night before, the milk gets spilled, and it gets spilled on his plane ticket. And so there's that. And then Macaulay Culkin is sent up to the attic to sleep by himself. And so that has to happen. And then, of course, there's during the night, the power goes out, and so the alarm doesn't go off for the family when they have to take the plane. Yeah, because the family is going to be traveling to Paris for Christmas, and so the family gets up late, and so there's this hectic rush um, for them to actually get there in time, and then um, the neighbor of the McAllisters comes up and is like talking to them and is being really annoying while they're packing their stuff into the airport shuttle. And then the older sister, when she's counting the kids, she counts the neighbor kid, thinking that he is Kevin, and so she miscounts in that way. So yeah, basically all of these different things have to happen in order for Macaulay Culkin to get left home alone in the first place. But this is one of those things where it's like, okay, this is the premise of the movie. It's kind of a crazy premise, but you just have to allow it to happen in order for the movie to happen, right?
Well, it's interesting because the big joke that I see a lot is like how crazy of a setup that is, but
Right.
they do set it up, right? So
They do.
there because like, oh yeah, he was left home alone, and then they had
Right.
a discussion about like, well, how could he be possibly left alone? So there is like a lot of like they
Oh yeah.
justify it very intricately what would have to happen for him to be left home alone. Where it's like they could have
Mhm.
just said they could have like ignored that, but instead they like they walk you through every step for him to lose his ticket, the power is gonna go out, there's gonna be a head count. And so it is like, I mean, I can't accept that he was left home alone.
Right. Right. Hmm. Yeah, and it's an interesting premise for me as somebody who, I mean, I'm an only child, so I feel like I spent a lot of time by myself as a child already, so I can't necessarily kind of relate to certain aspects of the movie, but if you sort of understand at the outset of the movie, like, this house is full of people, and yeah, and Kevin, he gets like no space or time to himself, and so this is just like his ultimate wish to just be by himself, to have all of his family disappear. And so if you kind of get into that mindset of being in a big family, then you can sort of understand how there might be a certain level of sort of liberation to being home alone. But I think for most kids, realistically, it would be a terrifying experience.
Yeah, I never thought about that. It's like I have been home alone,
Yeah,
and it's not fun. You either just watch a movie and you pray that someone gets home before night falls, or
right.
or you just
Mhm.
like, well, they're gonna be back. That's also why he had to wish for it, and he had to think that this was his Christmas wish, because
Right,
otherwise he wouldn't have reacted that way. He would have reacted like, "Oh my God, I got abandoned. This is scary."
right.
So it also needed her in order for him to start like dancing and pretending to shave. He had to
Mhm.
he had to think this was a Christmas gift from Santa Claus.
Right. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that has to be set up, yeah, that this is something he's actually wishing for, and it somehow comes true. But yeah, I mean, and I think that this movie also does sort of tap into the, as you mentioned, the primeval sort of fear of, yeah, I mean, if you're home alone, it's great, but yeah, once nightfall happens, it's like, yeah, you're just scared of people, breaking in. And of course, that's what actually happens in this movie. And yeah, the characters of the Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern play, yeah, Marv and yeah, I'm forgetting the name of Joe Pesci's character, but yeah, yeah, they're interesting characters because they are comic characters. I mean, they seem like sort of buffoons and so forth, but there are certain moments in the movie where it seems pretty clear if they have the opportunity to kill this kid, they will. Like they're like willing to kill this kid.
That's
So
it's yeah, it's a very fun comedy as long as they don't get what they want.
yeah.
Because they're like with the energy that they're chasing him, that's
Mhm.
not like we're gonna sit him down energy. That is like we are. I think they say like I'm gonna kill that kid, which that's an expression, but like they have angered these he's angered these robbers, and they are like they at one point they abandon just robbing this, which to be fair, this like 3-story mansion that is like
Right.
if there wasn't a kid there, you'd be like, oh no, they stole their precious jewels.
Right.
But uh, it like yeah, they could kill this kid if they get him, but he doesn't realize the stakes. So it's a very I don't know what he thinks is going to happen if they don't chirp on the marbles he threw on the floor.
Right.
Like what? I don't know. Like I would just he's a kid. He doesn't know what the stakes are at all.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And this is actually related to really probably my favorite moment in the entire movie, which is yeah, when Daniel Stern's character, yeah, like actually grabs a hold of Kevin as he's like running up to the attic, and it's like he's got him, and it's like, uh-oh, okay. And so yeah, yeah, all seems to be lost. And then Kevin sees his brother's pet tarantula and takes it and puts it on Daniel Stern's face. And the scream that Daniel Stern gives, I Daniel Stern should have gotten an Oscar just for that scream that he gives. It's one of the most amazing screams I've ever heard in any movie, and it always gets me every time. So yeah, that's a great moment. But yeah, yeah, I mean there's so many other great moments in this movie, and I mean, and it's a comedy ultimately, but there's also some heartwarming moments in it, I think, and I think they are genuinely heartwarming, like when he relates to his neighbor. Yeah, there's this old man in the neighborhood that people think he killed his wife and with his shovel and stuff because he's always like shoveling snow off his driveway, and it's like, man, how kind of horrible it is that neighborhood gossip it's to that level so quickly. but
And
but
it's
he's
just
actually
they're like he's
Mhm.
always carrying that snow shovel, and he's like
Right,
it's snowing. I don't know. Wait, what?
right.
Yeah, because it's like that's like like taking it back to the days before the Facebooks and stuff, where it's like you children and you come up with like wild theories for what everything is, and it's just like, why do you think he's always carrying that shovel? Probably killed his wife.
Hmm.
He's gonna kill us too.
Yeah,
That's like a theme in this as well. Is like he usually in the movies is he like befriends like a loner, and you get like a that's when you get like a real moment where he talks to someone and he's like, oh,
hmm.
I didn't realize how things were. And also like the beginning is also very real emotionally, especially when like the whole family turns on him.
Oh
Like his
yeah,
uncle's like yelling at him because
yeah.
it's
Yeah, his uncle, I feel like, is like the real villain of these movies. His uncle is really like the worst character in these movies. Yeah.
yeah, like we're gonna bring the 12 kids that we have, and
Hmm.
Uncle Jerry's gonna come too. He always comes to the big vacations we go on, and then
Yeah.
the day before he just yells at one of the kids.
Right.
It's like that's yeah. I would like you would hope that he would be left home alone, and then they just rob him.
Right. Right.
But like that the feelings he goes through to get to the point where he wishes for his family to be gone. It's also like that's
Right.
a believable point that he was pushed to because it was like that's a lot of people to turn on you. And then
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
yeah, with multiple siblings, I have two. There is a democracy to it, which the way it works for three we had so there were three kids in my family. So how it worked
Hmm.
is two people would agree on something and one person wasn't happy. And that was the democracy system we had, which was still better
Right.
than some. But it's like yeah, he was just the designate. The 12 kids, one of them's going to be the least favorite. That's you can't
Oh
possibly have
sure.
that much love in your heart.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, Home Alone overall, yeah, I think it's deservedly a holiday classic. It's got good laughs, it's got good heart in it. John Candy shows up at a certain point, and he has a hilarious bit where he's basically improvising. He's making up all these different polka song titles and he's talking to Catherine O'Hara's character, and that's great. I mean, if you know anything about sort of like the history of comedy and their background, I mean, they were both on SCTV back in the day, so it's cool to see those two actors in a scene together. And Yeah, so I think I think it's a great fun holiday movie. And even the sequel is I think pretty good. Not as good, but I think it also convincingly sets up how something kind of like this might happen again the next year.
That's it, because they do try to justify it. Like it's not it's not they don't go like he's home alone again. They're all like, all right, we gotta really make this believable this time. So we gotta sell it and we gotta sell it right. I feel like in the second one it became more about it was more directly Christmas and it was like there was like a more Christmas thing at stake instead of
Mhm.
being at best robbed by these two
Sure.
criminals.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Yeah. No, the stakes are upped in the second one because in that one Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern are trying to rob an actual toy store that is like donating money to orphans at Christmas and stuff. So
they're just
yeah. So
like
yeah.
it's charming, but they were like, dude, that's gonna be the perfect target for us to steal. They're also called the Wet Bandits,
The Wet Bandits. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they
That
look
is
like
that is
coffee.
something that specifically Daniel Stern's character is really trying to promote. He's like, yeah, no, we need a brand. Yeah, we always leave the faucet on after we rob people, so we're the wet bandits. And it's funny because I mean Joe Pesci's character is like, no, that's sick. That's stupid. No, no, don't do that. But never the less, yeah, that his view does win out. Yeah, they are referred to that way. Yeah,
Yeah. That is also the thing. That was like my first exposure to like the two goons were one's like the wise guy and the other one's
right,
like the dummy. And that is
right.
burned into my brain as like my favorite combination. And then
Mm-hmm.
like the guy going, "No, you idiot," but then he also does something stupid.
Right.
That is peak duo comedy for me.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, and this is definitely the first movie I ever saw with Joe Pesci, which
And
is
only.
pretty funny considering the other movies he did, and how he's. I mean, he's sort of doing like a scaled back, cleaned up version of the character he does in every other movie. But it's funny when like yeah when they're trying to break in and he gets hurt and he always says like ressa fressa 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 and I mean that he's doing everything in his power to prevent saying stuff that would make the movie R-rated, but yeah.
Which would be great if it was
Yeah,
completely clean. And
yeah,
then just one, and then the guy just like subs his toe and just starts swearing enough to get like an R rating.
yeah. Yeah, Home Alone rated R purely because of Joe Pesci's profanity. Yeah,
That 5 minute bit in the middle, the director was like, "I'm not editing this out.
that's right. No,
This
yeah, no,
stays in.
no. This stays. Yeah, yeah,
This was the vision that I have."
yeah. So yeah, okay, yeah. So Home Alone. Yeah, I think people know it pretty well, but yeah, if you don't check it out, you might enjoy it.
Yeah, final little bit is I see people. This is one of those things where it's like you people got to put something down to raise something else up. So with the Die Hard is not a Christmas movie thing, which it's
Right,
not. And then I see, well, Home Alone's not a Christmas movie either, and I'm like, it absolutely is. That they're trying to because now they're trying to loosen the definition so Die Hard can squeeze back in there, but
right.
it's on
Yeah,
Christmas. They're they left on Christmas vacation. He made a Christmas wish, and
right.
it's about family.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So yeah, since you brought that up, yeah, let's just address this briefly. Yeah. So, for me, yeah, what I've come to realize is that in order for something to be a Christmas movie, there you have to watch it and after having watched it, there really can't be any doubt in your mind that it's a Christmas movie. And I feel like Home Alone is one of those movies where it's like, yeah, there's not even a debate over whether it's a Christmas movie. The fact that there's a debate over whether Die Hard is a Christmas movie, I think already kind of disqualifies it as a Christmas movie. And I want to make this clear. Die Hard being a Christmas movie or not has no bearing on the quality of Die Hard as a movie. It's a great movie. I
One of the
mean,
best
it's
action movies.
yeah, one of the best movies. Yeah, one of the best action movies of all time. Deservedly a classic. Much better than many Christmas movies. But yeah, it just doesn't feel right to me to classify a movie that just so happens to take place during Christmas, but otherwise they don't really say much about Christmas in it as a Christmas movie. Yeah.
And yeah, and here's my final thought on that is because if when I watch Christmas movies, like the next two I'll say, but like Home Alone, is I feel kind of weird when I'm watching them and it's not around Christmas time.
Exactly. Yeah. That's
I
another
don't
good
feel
point.
weird watching Die Hard at any point in the year,
Mm-hmm.
but I do feel weird watching, let's say, The Grinch
Right.
when it's like April. I'm like, I'm not supposed to watch this yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another special thing about Christmas movies. I mean, regardless of their inherent quality in and of themselves, their movies that are only meant to be watched at a specific time of the year. Yeah.
And I'm sorry if I say that Die Hard is timeless, but
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, yeah. If anything, it's to its benefit. Yeah. Die Hard, Iron Man 3. These are movies you can watch any time of the year.
anytime. The Predator,
Mm-hmm.
the we'll have to talk about that movie at some point. I have a lot of issues with that movie, but
Okay.
speaking of the Grinch, the
Mm.
Grinch is my
Yes.
second movie,
Okay. Okay.
specifically the Jim Carrey Grinch. I actually don't really like any other version outside of this
So
one.
so you don't like the animated version?
It's like I watched like that was like when I was a kid I would watch it, but
Mm-hmm.
once the Jim Carrey one came out, I was like, well, I don't need these anymore. I'm just
Okay.
I because now I have a Grinch thing to watch.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough.
Um, you must have seen the movie. You were supposed to.
Yes, yes, I did watch it. Yeah. Before I give my thoughts on it, why don't you give your thoughts on it?
Um, yeah, this was peak Jim Carrey. This was when it was like
Hmm.
this was before he started getting weird,
Right.
before anything bad or weird about him started coming out. And this is
Hmm.
just it is the Grinch story. It's still a solid Grinch Christmas movie, and it's
Right.
just full of jokes that as the years go by, I either like every year I'm like, oh, I didn't get that joke, or oh, that's even funnier than I thought it was.
Right.
Because when I watch it as a kid, I'm like, I know this is funny because he's screaming, but like I'm not really getting when he's like, it's because I'm green, isn't it? When a guy doesn't pick him up in a
Mm.
taxi.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
I would say this is the funniest Christmas thing that I have. So this is my go-to Christmas comedy,
Okay. Okay. Hmm.
and it's very. I don't get tired of it either. It's I can watch it on a loop if I want to.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's just like it's very comfy. It's very like I like at the beginning too. It's filmed kind of like a horror thing too. I guess that's a thing in horror in Christmas movies. You got
Hmm.
to because in this one they're doing a lot of like what does he do, and basically what the Grinch does all year long is he just sneaks into town every now and then and he just messes with people's stuff and then he's very harmless. That's like
Yeah.
the neat part is you never think like oh he's like he like messes with people's mail is like the worst thing which is a federal crime, but
Oh yeah. Mhm.
well yeah he also caused like a car accident a couple times. He's actually pretty bad, but he, I don't know what if people die in the movie, but there are explosions and car accidents throughout the show movie.
They're definitely those. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Um, those are my thoughts on it. My
Okay.
general thoughts.
Okay. Um, well, yeah. So it's before I give my thoughts, yeah, I'll just sort of start by saying, it's interesting with Christmas movies where, um, you will oftentimes encounter them at a certain, very specific point in your life. Oftentimes when you're maybe especially young, and so you'll have a certain nostalgia for a particular movie because it's something that you grew up with. Um, One obstacle for me with this movie is that this movie came out when I was in college. So I was already not really in the age demographic for it when it came
Mm,
out. Um, Aside from that, um, when I distinctly remember seeing trailers for this movie and thinking that it did not look very good to me. And after the movie came out, um, I remember hearing reviews from like Roger Ebert and so forth saying that the movie was not very good. Uh, and that's
Roger
that.
Ebert said that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
I
Yeah.
found growing up that most of the movies I liked as a child, I'm lucky if they scored above a 7 out of 10 in reviews.
Yeah.
There have
Yeah.
been very few times where I look something up and I'm like, that's how I felt it deserved, and I'll look at it like, oh, this was like a disaster. This was like
Right.
a this
Yeah.
bombed in theaters.
And that is worth pointing out is that yeah, I think Roger Ebert was not very good at sort of judging kids movies. Yeah, I mean, and he gave a very low review to the Ninja Turtles movies,
Oh,
which I love. So you know there is that. So take that into consideration. But you know this is all just to say. So you know this Jim Carrey Grinch movie. I was probably too old to see it when it originally came out. It didn't look pretty. Yeah, it didn't look especially good to me. I didn't hear especially good things about it, so I just never watched it.
mm.
So I only watched it for the first time a couple of days ago,
Oh,
uh, and you know I try to be as positive as I can on this show while also being honest. And I'm sorry,
ah,
I really did not like this movie at all.
ah,
I found it
ah,
I found it painful to sit through.
painful.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but you know,
Oh.
uh maybe if I watched again, maybe it would eventually grow on me like a fungus. But I don't know. Jim Carrey, I feel like is I mean he's definitely great. He's definitely funny in a lot of things. Jim Carrey's acting style is, you know, he's usually at a 10 or an 11. In this movie, he's at like a 13 or a 14.
Yeah.
Um, all the time. I mean, he's like big acting in your face all the time. And he's just like, you know, dancing around all the time. And yeah, it just didn't work for me.
Yeah, here's what I'll say. There's a there's a scene where Cindy Lou Who goes to
Mm-hmm.
his house, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
and
Right.
to invite him to a party. And then he just starts trying to scare her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what he did, I thought as a child, this is hilarious, and I still think that is hilarious. But
Mm-hmm.
it is just him at one point just going like blah in her
Right.
face. So,
Right. Right.
so also, you know, one of my favorite jokes in comedy is when a person falls down a hill for a long time. So I
Uh-huh.
don't really have, you know, what gets me in comedy. It's not that highbrow. It's usually just where he starts where he puts a shirt on and so he can rip it off and say like run before I turn. And I was like, that's brilliant. This is
Oh
cinema.
yeah. Uh-huh.
This is true cinema. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you're not into that, that is entirely what the movie is. It is Jim Carrey. Just just go. You're gonna eat fudge for 10 minutes, and then he's gonna go to the jubilation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What about the
Yeah,
story?
I mean, and I think maybe this movie can be defended in terms of, I mean, if you look at it as sort of like camp, as really kind of campy, I mean, you know, you might be able to enjoy it some on that level. But yeah, I'm sorry, I just found this movie really rough to get through.
Oh man.
So I mean, so I'll just say, you know, again, for our watchers, for our listeners, if this is a movie you grew up with and that you have good feelings about, hey, that's cool, you know, and I don't want to take that away from you. But if you have not yet seen this movie, um, you know, maybe maybe don't.
Right? But you do have to agree with me on this note. It
Yep.
is a Christmas movie,
It is absolutely a Christmas movie. Yeah,
where the
absolutely.
true spirit of Christmas is discovered a little bit at the end.
Yeah, yeah.
And where else? I mean, you saw the Grinch animations, right?
Oh, sure.
They
Yeah,
didn't go in deep into his background. Like they didn't. The lore of the Grinch was finally explored in this one.
that's true. Yeah, that's another thing is that, yeah, I mean, the animated movie is, I think, about half an hour, something like that. it's based on a relatively short children's, picture book. Um, this movie, yeah, is like, I think about an hour 45 minutes, and it was actually funny. As I was watching this movie, I actually noticed, okay, right at about the hour mark, it actually clicks into the actual plot of how the Grinch Stole Christmas. The first hour of this movie is like all new stuff, yeah, about the Grinch's background, and then there's a part where like, yeah, Cindy Lou like invites him to get some award somewhere, and he just goes there and he like terrorizes people and everything. So, yeah, again, from my perspective, watching this, yeah, it kind of feels like they just made up this whole hour of like filler to go first, and then we'll actually do the story as people know it. and that's, if you're into something like that, that's cool. I didn't quite see the point of doing that.
That's a fair point because yeah, it's like okay, after he goes to the big Whoville jubilation,
Mm-hmm.
then he's like, I'm gonna steal Christmas.
Right.
Um, they set up he hates Christmas and no one really likes him, and he's like he stays alone. So that's the point you start, and then he's invited to a Christmas party, and he goes. He does go to
Mm-hmm.
a Christmas party, and then
Right.
it's more that like people just keep pushing his buttons, and
Right.
then finally he causes an explosion, and he does like that big jumping from an explosion thing. The
Oh
town's
yeah.
like, we hate you, and he's like, I'm now we're gonna find out how the Christmas stole. Wow, I messed it up. How the Grinch stole Christmas,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which he
Right.
still does. It's still faithful to the core essence of the source material. He still steals Christmas.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No,
And
this movie does not stray from the plot of the original book at all. Uh, it just adds way, way more.
now
But
that I'm
yeah,
thinking about it,
I'm sure that it leaves nothing out. Yeah.
I don't know if the original Grinch story was a comedy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think all of the Dr. Seuss books, had some comedy in them.
I would call them whimsical. I don't know.
Whimsical. That's the perfect word for them. Yeah.
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 Like when they say truffle of trees, I'm like, that's not funny, but it is whimsical.
Right.
And
Right.
well, you must. What about? Did you see what was the One Slur movie?
Is that Horton Hears a Who,
No, the other one. Something about
or
I speak for the trees.
oh yeah, the Lorax.
The Lorax, the one that they use to advertise SUVs. Do you remember that? I don't know
That's
if you.
funny.
Because he's like,
Totally in line with the spirit. Yeah. The
he's
original
like, it
story.
gets good mileage. It's better for the environment.
Right. Yeah. So I speak for the trees. Buy an SUV. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the absolute worst kind of car. Not even a hybrid, which existed back then. Hybrids were an option back then.
Yeah.
They didn't go with. They were like, we don't want it. We don't want the Lorax advertising those.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. I did not see the more recent feature length Lorax movie. I did watch the older animated one. Yeah. I think this Grinch movie. This is the first time I've watched any of the like feature length adaptations of a Dr. Seuss story, which in most respects, I yeah, again, if you're into it, that's cool. But to me, it seems like a ridiculous exercise to take a 20-minute story, pad it out into a full movie. Yeah,
The whole time we were like, when is he gonna steal Christmas?
right,
We,
right. It's like, okay, I know his entire life story. Good, yeah, yeah.
you literally do. That's not an exaggeration. We are told from conception
Right,
what his life was like.
right, right. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah,
Um, well, I'll say Jim Carrey was in another Christmas movie called A Christmas Carol.
that's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, okay, good. Well, so yes, I would like to talk about my second favorite Christmas movie, which is A Christmas Carol, but not the Jim Carrey version. Um, no, this is a version from yeah, I believe it's from 1984. Is this actually a made-for-TV movie that stars George C. Scott as Ebenezer Scrooge, and so yeah, I mean, I think that A Christmas Carol is one of those things. Yeah, for me personally, I'm not sure what your background with it was growing up, but for me, like I feel like I had seen at least 6 or 7 different versions of A Christmas Carol before I was 10 years old. Like, I mean, there's way more versions than that. I mean, this is just one of those stories that, you know, I think it's only about 200 years old. It's maybe not even that old, but it's really taken on a life of its own in terms of, people just love it. They love making adaptations of it, with, Mickey Mouse, with the Muppets, with all kinds of different characters. But if you want to just see a pretty straightforward adaptation of what the original Charles Dickens story is, I think this is a fantastic version of it, because yeah, I mean, George C. Scott, if you know anything about him, I mean, he was a great actor. He was in Patton, he was in Doctor Strangelove, all of these great movies from back in the day, and I think he's excellent as Scrooge. There's a lot of other great actors in it as well. Uh, David Warner plays Bob Cratchit. David Warner, of course, people know as the scientist in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze.
We all know him from that movie.
Also in many other movies. I mean, he's actually like a British Shakespearean actor and stuff. But that's for Americans, that may be the thing that he is most known for. But I think he's great in that. Yeah, Roger Reese plays Fred Cratchit, or Fred, Ebenezer Scrooge's nephew, and he also played the sheriff of Rottingham in Robin Hood Men in Tights. You might know him from that, and he also had a role on Cheers. Yeah, these are all references specifically from
Yeah,
my
I was
generation growing up. Cody's probably lost at this point.
starting at movie 2 on your list is where I was like, oh, I didn't even know this existed.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's also very hard to find a specific Christmas Carol movie because you just go through, and it is like I had to like check notes and stuff to be like, which movie is it? It's not the one that was made 2 years later. It's not the one that was made 2 years before. It's not the
right.
one with the Muppets, is it? No, it's not. Okay, it's not. It's not the Jim Carrey one, which was the most
Right.
recent one I've seen. I remember growing up, like around Christmas time, they would just show you a movie in school. So like I've seen most of the animation ones, but I don't remember anything. It's a very, but it's a very straightforward plot. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like in my brain, I'm like, I guess the Jim Carrey one was a faithful adaptation, if nothing else.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was also this was the first time I remember I was watching something and I went, oh, they're not using any special effects. That's like
Yeah.
there's when the ghost of Christmas Present shows up. Spoilers. He they're
Mm-hmm.
like there's like lights and stuff and there's like sparkles and then so the way they do it is they actually like hang stuff up and it's like props. I was like, oh, normally they would have done like a lens flare or something so you can know
Right.
it's like a Christmas thing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, because this was a made for TV thing. Yeah, it looks like it has like a sort of moderate budget, but not super high budget. But I think that works in its favor. Yeah, because it's just, yeah, very very straightforward. Yeah, not a lot of special effects, just sort of letting the story speak for itself. And so yeah, so yeah, I think in that sense, it's a very strong version of it.
and
But yeah. Mhm.
I don't know if like this is obvious, but like this was the first time I got it. Like watching this was like what the point of the Ghost of Christmas Past and stuff is, especially is because it's like at the end he's acting like how he used to in the past, and that's why they showed him that. That's the first time I made that connection. I don't know if it's just, but like it was the first time I saw him. Like, oh, he's acting like that version, and that's why he was shown that, because otherwise it doesn't, it wouldn't, it'd be like a wild change in persona. But for
Mhm.
him, he just remembered how he used to be.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's a good observation. Yeah, and I think that's part of what makes this version work so well. Yeah, is that yeah, George C. Scott, I think, presents the sort of transformation of Scrooge in a pretty convincing way where yeah, it's just in terms of a couple sort of slight adjustments to his personality. I mean, it's like the overall change maybe seems uh you know dramatic and extreme in some ways, but it's really just yeah, a couple of sort of tweaks. One thing that I really noticed is that I like the way that like when Scrooge is with the different spirits and like I mean especially when like the ghost of Christmas present is like uh throwing his words back at him, like when he's like, oh yeah, will a Tiny Tim survive, and the ghost of Christmas present is like, well, better that he dies, uh um that he reduces the surplus population, right? And that's something that Scrooge says earlier on to justify not donating to the poor earlier. And I feel like I've seen a lot of other versions of this where when those moments happen, Scrooge is like shocked, but but in this, George C. Scott is just sort of like, yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. I get what you're doing, and that seems much more realistic. Is that he's never totally shocked by anything. He's just like, all right, yeah, yeah, you're trying to warm my heart here. Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. And I think
Yeah,
that's a great way to play it. You know.
that is something I noticed too. Is like when he says that, like in the Jim Carrey one,
Mm-hmm.
and that might be my own, but I remember like because that felt because like his reaction, he was a lot more loud about how much of a Scrooge he was in the adaptations that I remember seeing. So he was
Mm-hmm.
like, then decrease the surplus population. And this one, like he says it very casually because it's just a thought he has, and
Mm-hmm.
no one even the people react very casually too because they're not like, but what about the spirit of Christmas, sir? They're kind of like, oh, okay, he's
Mm-hmm.
one of the yeah, this is just how he is.
Right,
Uh,
right. Mm-hmm.
they're not nearly like everyone kind of reacts a little bit more realistically compared to the versions I remember seeing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting how, yeah, in all of these different versions of A Christmas Carol, like, I mean, there's certain things that some versions leave out and stuff. And yeah, I feel like this was the first version that I saw that included, and again, this is with the Ghost of Christmas Present, when the Ghost of Christmas Present like opens his robe at one point and shows Scrooge these two like emaciated children, poverty and want, and and that is something that yeah, I mean that's from the original book and stuff, and it's a very sort of disturbing, haunting moment, and yeah, I think a lot of versions leave that out, but I think it's a very affecting part when it happens in this version. Yeah.
That's also because each ghost is like trying to. I also just saw Spirited with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, which is
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. I haven't seen that yet, but yeah, I'm looking
I
forward to it.
enjoyed it, and it's about Scrooge mythology and type stuff, and like it's interesting because you see like each ghost is trying to like get to him, and then they start like the more he's like whatever, which bah humbug is like
Mm-hmm.
uh, I in my head I'm like I imagine he's swearing whenever just the way people react. They're like humbug Christmas.
Yeah,
Uh,
how dare you? Yeah, yeah.
just happens.
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I literally in my head I'm like he's saying the F word I think in like old timey he's saying like F Christmas and people are like Jesus dude like we're just trying to like invite you to like a party um but like for the present one it is like he's like being shown what his consequence what his actions do in like now. And then he's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, and then he's like having the stuff that he said recently thrown back at him. He's still like, all right, well.
Mhm.
But then he's like, well, not like actually, no, like actually look at like what is happening right now, and that's when he starts getting like that's like they you can see that they're using tactics to like get
Right,
him
right.
spooked and to
Hmm.
really set
Hmm.
him up for the big future home run, which as far as I can tell in every adaptation is pretty much the same.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty similar, although yeah, one difference, and again, this is related to yeah how I first encountered A Christmas Carol. I mean the very first version of A Christmas Carol I ever saw was Mickey's Christmas Carol, it was the Disney
Mouse,
version. Wait, what's that?
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey Mouse, yeah. Well, yeah. So yeah, Scrooge McDuck
Oh,
plays Scrooge. Yeah, Mickey Mouse plays Bob Cratchit, and um, and in that version, yeah, the Ghost of Christmas Future or of Christmas Yet to Come. Um, that's it's a hooded figure, but then at the end, the hooded figure is revealed to be Pete. The yeah, the character of Pete uh, from the old Mickey Mouse cartoons, are also he was Goofy's neighbor on Goof Troop, if you remember that.
yeah, he was in a Goofy movie,
And
which is not a Goofy movie.
yeah, yeah,
Very
a Goofy
sad
movie
story.
is actually a very serious. Yeah, there's a lot of deep emotions in that movie. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
But yeah,
not
and mhm. But yeah, in that version, yeah, the hooded figure is silent, but then he reveals himself to be Pete, and he's like ha 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 ha, ha. And then he like pushes Scrooge into his grave and stuff. And so because that was the very first version of A Christmas Carol I ever saw, it was always sort of like a letdown from then on that in every other version, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come is just this silent hooded figure that never says anything. I'm always waiting for like that big reveal where it's like some scary thing that like talks to him or something. But yeah, so anyway.
that is, yeah. That, like there's, I feel like every they're like there's you're waiting for like a reveal for the face.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, he's the ghost where it's like, and it's also much me. You know, in the Jim Carrey one, also like it's the Christmas Carol story, but then also there'll just
Uh-huh.
be extended scenes where he's like running and stuff, and like in the Ghost of
Mm-hmm.
Christmas Future one, there's like extended scenes where he's running, and then the Ghost of Christmas Future is chasing him. Then he shrinks down to the size of a mouse. Now a mouse is
Oh,
chasing him, and then he's like slipping and falling, and then they get back to like the Christmas stuff, and I was like, yeah, they didn't need to have that. That was this was yeah, it's they were filling time, I guess,
yeah.
because
Well,
that you
yeah,
know
yeah. I mean, that's uh-huh. Yeah,
he's tripping and
that's the other thing is that yeah, this version of A Christmas Carol, it's an hour 40, pretty nice, lean story. You can definitely add more in it into it to, stretch it out if you want to, but yeah, I think this hits all the beats yeah, in a timely fashion. Doesn't spend too long on any one of them, but gets the job done. So yeah, I think yeah, for me it's probably the definitive version of the sort of real Charles Dickens story.
it's also interesting like the setup for this movie is like what like a plot structure that like you're told growing up, like it's a three act structure, and so like in the
Right.
beginning they're like, all right, we're gonna tell you, by the way, there's gonna be a beginning, middle, and end. And then the ending, so it's like epilogue. It's a very like plot structure wise, it's very like smooth because you're like, this is literally going to be a plot outline that's going to happen to you right now. We're going to give you
Right.
background. We're going to show what's happening now, and then we're going to have
Mm-hmm.
falling action.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, that's it. That was my final thoughts on. I thought it was good. It was just
Oh,
it felt clean. It
Yeah.
just felt like this is purely the story of Christmas Carol.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Okay. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Now,
So now we're at your number one, right?
yeah. Now here's the thing. I will defend this, and I'm aware
Okay.
it's not for everyone, but I have a
Hmm.
soft spot for Arnold, and
Uh-huh.
my number one Christmas movie is Jingle All the Way,
Hmm.
starring Arnold. This
Okay.
is
Well.
background of it, which really, I was in an Arnold mania. I was watching every Arnold movie for a bit when I found out about this movie. So I was like, this is
Hmm.
perfect for me. This was written before Black Friday was a thing. This was before superheroes were like trending. This was written.
Right.
So now, like, as time goes on, it's like, this makes, like the big obsession is a superhero action figure. And that was,
Hmm.
so this is Arnold needs to get a toy, and it is exactly what I want in that, which is he gets into a fight with a bunch of mall Santas.
Right.
He's
Hmm.
on the run from the police, and there's a
Hmm.
very odd subplot involving his neighbor trying to get with his wife, and that
Right.
is
Yeah.
I. This was a movie where I watched it as a kid, and I was like, recently. I was like, I'm gonna not recently, 6 years ago. I'm gonna check in on this again. And I'm like,
Hmm.
this is brilliant, and I love it, and I think this is a perfect film. And I watch it
Hmm.
every Christmas. I watch The Grinch like around when December starts, but I watch Jingle All the Way every Christmas.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Mhm.
Oh yeah, Hank Azaria is in it. That's the Simpsons guy,
Hank Azaria is in it. Who does he play?
the neighbor.
No, that's Phil Hartman. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well I couldn't do the trivia part right.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Phil Hartman's in this.
I thought I missed something. Okay. Um. Yeah. Okay. So
But
yeah. Jingle all the way.
I'm
Uh-huh.
assuming you did not see this before I this point.
So I actually had seen this before. Yeah. Again, I remember when this came out in theaters, and again feeling like, I'm not quite sure if this movie is for me at the time, but actually shortly after it came out, I remember watching it on like HBO or something. Yeah, so yeah, I saw this pretty soon after it had come out, um, and yeah, and so watching it again, um, yeah, so I'm not quite sure if I would put this in the category of a good movie, but this is a fun movie.
It's it,
I actually had a lot of fun watching this movie. Yeah, and I think you know if you're in the mood for something like this, if you're in the mood for just sort of dumb fun, I guess. I think there's a lot of great stuff in here, and yeah, and I was surprised. I mean, I remember that Phil Hartman was in this movie and Sinbad was in this movie, but I forgot how kind of deep the roster was. Like this is actually kind of an all star movie. There's a lot of big comedy people in this movie. Martin Mull shows up, and Jim Belushi shows up as well, and yeah, so yeah, I think this is definitely an entertaining movie, and it's interesting because this is one of the few movies where Arnold, our former governor, is really playing a sort of normal guy. Yeah, which is interesting. I mean, it's like for like any other actor, it's like, yeah, I mean, they're just playing a normal guy, but it's, we're supposed to accept Arnold Schwarzenegger as just like a normal suburban dad. Okay, that's
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, just like a salesman at a company. Um, he's not also like some black ops army guy in his free time. No, no, okay. Uh, there were a couple of brief references to other things we know about Arnold in this movie, but yeah, for the most part, yeah, he just plays a regular regular guy, yeah, who trying to get the Turbo Man action figure for his son. And and so there's a lot of fun episodes in here. Yeah, we got Sinbad in here. Yeah, and yeah. By the way, there was this period of time in like the early to mid '90s when Sinbad was everywhere. Like
He used
he
to
was, he,
rule.
he was in like every movie, um, in at least some supporting role as like comic relief. He actually had like a sitcom for a while that I think was just called Sinbad. I mean he was huge, for a while, and there's some good moments in here. And with all of the other virtues of this movie, I mean, one other thing, that is worth saying is that this is one of the precious few movies that Phil Hartman is in a pretty large role, and considering the very tragic fate that befell Phil Hartman, I think it's we need to treasure all of the movies that he's in. And his role in this movie is perfect for I mean he plays like the single dad of the neighborhood who's sleazily trying to like get into the pants of I mean I'm sure he's banged every other woman in this neighborhood except for Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife, and he's just looking to get with her to like get one more notch on his belt and stuff.
It's that's the B plot of this is he's like trying to
Yeah,
get with the main character's wife. What I
yeah,
like is she's never like reciprocative of it. She just doesn't get that that's what he's doing. And
right,
that,
right,
and as soon as it becomes very obvious that's what he's doing, she's like, no, I'm married. I have I have a child. Like it's like the main character's worried about it, but like there's no like risk of it happening. It's because I see that in The Simpsons likes doing that where it's like the
mm-hmm. Right,
characters are constantly on the verge of cheating on each other. It's
right. Mm-hmm.
like they're married. I think they've started making episodes addressing it, but their marriage is like constantly like they're always about to leave each other or cheat on each other. It's
Right, right. Mm-hmm.
it's weird that it's like a heartfelt thing, but what I mean that's the thing that I like too with like the fact that like your intro to him is his issue. I mean, and he's in like like they don't make suits that can fit this man, so he's just in this suit.
Right,
He's like, "You're my number one customer," and his issue is that he's a busy businessman. And at one
right,
point,
right.
Phil Hartman's character just addresses the fact that he's a muscle-bound Hercules, and in like an offhand comment, and then
Yeah,
they
yeah,
just
yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, at one point, Phil Hartman says like, "You can't bench press your way out of this," and it's sort of completely out of nowhere. Other than it's just, okay, well, yeah, I guess there had to be at least one line in this movie that acknowledges Arnold Schwarzenegger's physique. Okay,
is a mountain of a man.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, there's this guy who's just like being towered over him, like
mm-hmm.
who's trying to have sex with this guy's wife, and
Right,
he's just
right.
like, can't bench press your way out of this one, dude. And
That's right.
he's not afraid of any physical repercussions. He's
Yeah, no, yeah, nowhere else in this movie is it acknowledged. Yeah, within the movie, the character is not. They never say that he's a guy that exercises a lot,
he
but
doesn't
it's
sell
just
exercise equipment. They could
no.
have done things to fit it
Mm-hmm.
into the world, but like no, he sells like mattresses or something. So he
Right.
and he forgot to get the Turbo Man toy, which
Mm-hmm.
very very easily fits into Iron Man if Iron Man was a craze. But I don't know if people still buy toys. I don't know if that's still like a thing outside of like collecting them. I don't know because every now and then I go to Walmart and stuff, and I'm like, let me check out the toy aisle, not in a creepy way, but just like how's toy technology like changed since my era of like Bionicles. And I look at it
Well,
like
yeah,
there's
yeah, that's
like it's been
mhm.
like 10 years and toys are pretty much the same, if not worse, because there's no more Bionicles.
Sure. Well, yeah, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've done the same. Yeah, when I go to like Target and stuff. yeah, and it's at Target specifically, I think there's like a toy aisle, and then there's like another section that's like the collectibles section, which is hilarious. And it's specifically for people my age because it has like all of these Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures, but done in the style of like the old cartoon, that again, the cartoon from people of my generation. So it's like, okay, all of you weird adults who collect toys, this is your specific section, which is different from the actual kids toy section.
And it's a whole
So
section. It's not like a little corner where they put up the stuff. It's like the whole, they had to make a whole aisle for it. And I bet that's probably more profitable than the kids section. Because do kids want
Oh,
toys?
I'm sure.
I don't
Oh, of
know.
course, yeah.
I thought like the way you know what Bionicles are, right?
I don't know.
Oh, well, they were a subset of Lego. But basically, it was
Oh,
Legos
okay.
for like cool kids. So like you would
Okay.
assemble it.
Uh-huh.
It was like actually I can do this. So it was like an action figure, but you had to assemble it yourself, and it would come in parts. So you would get like a box filled with
Okay.
parts, and then you would assemble it bit by bit, and then you could like mix and match as a. And I watched all the movies and stuff. Very deep lore, Bionicles. But I was like, well, where's toy technology in 10 years? What's that going to be like? Are you going to like program? You're going to be able to control them with like your mind or something? And then they're like, no, we just don't sell those anymore. Like, what do you sell? They're like, you can buy Lego, and oddly enough, still WWE action figures. That's still like a hot item, which I don't get.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I don't know because WWE dropped off. Absolutely, they don't.
Oh, really?
It's just guys now. Like in the past, I don't know if you watch wrestling, but in the
I
past it was
don't.
okay. Well, this is all right. So wrestling, it was people are like it's fake. Obviously, it's fake. I don't because the Undertaker
Sure.
is a zombie, and his brother died, went to hell, and came back as a revenant, and they're in an eternal rivalry. And then Stone Cold is the bionic redneck, and he's been reassembled,
Uh-huh.
and he
Right.
is going to battle Rey Mysterio, who's like and then there's a guy who just spits poison, which is not
Yeah.
a wrestling. That's he just has a superpower where he
Mm-hmm.
shoots poison out of his mouth. And at one point, the Undertaker had an assistant named Paul Bearer, and what he would
Uh-huh.
do during wrestling matches would pull up the urn of the Undertaker's mother's ashes to channel
Mm-hmm.
energy into him. And the announcers, there's this like the guy like he has like undershadow makeup on and everything to look like a spooky Undertaker, and like the Paul Bearer.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like channeling energy. The Undertaker starts getting stronger, and the announcers just go like, he seems to be emanating some sort of energy into the Undertaker to enhance his strength. Let's see how that's going to pay off in this match. And that's the wrestling that I love. And now I look at it as
Mm-hmm.
John Cena, who is a guy who wears jean shorts, and that is his theme.
Right.
And I don't get like I don't get why you would want an action figure of a guy. Like after they're like it's they also used to
Mm-hmm.
have sketch show like WWE would have sketches in it too. That's what people don't remember.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I got a
Oh,
little.
yeah. That would be the part where like they would say like, let me tell you something. Da, 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 and also this. Yeah.
But yeah, because there's so how it works is so they fight in the ring at
Right.
the end of everything, but then they set it up by they trash talk and haul it. There's one Booker T. Surely you know Booker T. He was one of the
I know Booker T. Washington, but no,
oh
I'm
so
afraid I
let's
don't know
basically the
Booker
same.
T. the wrestler. Yeah.
He was one of the heel characters, and so he's in
Okay.
a conflict with Stone Cold because they're gonna fight in the next match.
Okay.
So what they do is they show Booker T in full costume is at the grocery store, and he's an evil guy. So he's just walking
Mm-hmm.
down the aisle and he's like, "Yeah, what is that? Fruit Loops?" Let me open that. And he opens it and he throws it on the ground, and it's just like this is just what he does, like in his free time. Because like in the world of wrestling, they never change clothes. Like this is who they are. Like he's wearing like the
Uh-huh.
speedo and like a little
Right.
vest,
Right.
and he's just
Uh-huh.
like a jerk, and he's just knocking stuff off shelves, and then Stone Cold shows up, and then they fight in the grocery store, and I thought that
Yeah.
was the most hilarious thing ever. Um,
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah.
uh, just the idea that this is that's part of it, that they don't drop character because you just like Stone Cold Steve Austin is just that guy, and sometimes he
Mhm.
wrestles. Um,
Right, right.
but yeah, toy
Yeah.
technology. If you've seen where toy technology, like you remember when they came out with robots, and you're like, at least I remember, they're like, you can control a robot, and I was like, oh my god, that's the future, and then you can make it go like, duh, duh, and it falls over, and you're like, wow, that was $100, and it didn't do anything. I was
Well,
like,
yeah, I mean, when I was very young, yeah, the most exciting toy was called Teddy Ruxpin, and it was this like robotic bear that like you would put it. This is how old I am. You would put a cassette tape
oh
into
wow, that I was gonna be like, no, it's just
into his belly, and then he would start talking, and he would like tell you a story about him, and yeah, and it had like a robotic mouth, and it was very exciting for children back in the late 80s. Yeah.
yeah, that
Mhm.
sounds great. Uh,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
you had one?
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely,
I'll
yeah,
tell you,
yeah.
before we get back to talking about the movie, is I
Mhm.
remember when I stopped being able to play with toys, and it
Uh-huh.
was when I was 13,
Uh-huh.
and I realized like I haven't played with toys in a while, and I was like, can I get a toy? Like I asked my parents, I'm like, I'm well past toy age. Like, can I get like a toy again? And I got it,
Mhm.
and when you're a kid, you can play with it, you can make stories, you can do all this stuff, and it's a
Right.
real feeling. Like it's a presence
Mhm.
where you can like have fun. And I just sat there with these toys and I went like, oh, there's nothing there anymore. Like it really is like that part of me is
Right.
just like,
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that is something that happens. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember when the original Star Wars movies were released when I was in high school, and so we were all getting excited about Star Wars again. And yeah, yeah. I mean, I was too old for toys, but I was like, well, yeah, but I mean, I still want to get like a R2D2 or something, and so like I got one of them, and yeah, and then it was like, well, yeah, this is just like a cool thing to look at, uh, but yeah, I don't feel like playing with it.
yeah,
Yeah,
because you can
yeah,
remember doing it, and it's just like
yeah,
that's just there. It's an ability that your brain has, and
right,
at a certain age, it just goes like, nah, we're done, man. We're gonna
mhm,
start riding motorcycles and going to prom, and that's what we're
right,
gonna. I
exactly.
didn't, but your
Yeah,
brain thinks we're gonna start doing
smoking
it.
cigarettes. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, smoking in the
exactly.
boys' room, and
That's right. That's right.
little did they know. Turns out I would pretty much just never grow up, and I just play games all day. But your chemistry is set up for you to like, I guess, start doing things.
Yeah.
It was dramatic because I used to make like grappling hooks and stuff. I would like sew, and I would get like hot glue. I do arts and crafts and stuff. I was like very
Uh-huh.
creative, and then it literally was just like, not anymore. You're done. I'm like, oh, I'm done. Like, yeah, no, your childhood's gone.
Right. Wow.
But the
Wow.
the movie's great. Now I saw a
Yeah.
video essay talking about Jingle All the Way, and
Hmm.
just first the thing is Sinbad's character in the beginning would before like the big toy hunt starts, he pretty much goes
Right.
on a rant saying what the moral is, and no one
Yeah.
cares. And that's sort
That's
of
right.
the recurring thing is the crazy people are the one like Sinbad's like the crazy guy, but he's like the one saying all the good points. And he like it is like he's like I'm a father trying to get this toy, and it's the companies they make kids want these toys more than they would, and now I'm gonna be a
Right.
bad parent if I don't get them one, even though like I work my butt off all year, and then like and everyone's just like shut up, we're trying to get this toy, and
Hmm.
that was
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. Yeah, that's a very specific thing that, yeah, I think started happening a little bit in the 80s, and then yeah, in the 90s got even more prevalent, is that yeah, every Christmas there would be like a specific toy that would be the hot toy for that Christmas. And yeah, and I think the first example of that was really like the Cabbage Patch Kids, uh back in the 80s. But yeah, in the 90s, I remember like one Christmas it was Tickle Me Elmo. It was like that was the cool toy that everybody had to have. yeah, it was just a Elmo doll, and you tickle him, and he would laugh and stuff. And then I think another Christmas it was the Furby, which was
Hmm.
like this like talking doll. Yeah, a little bit like the Teddy Ruxpin. Yeah, the Teddy Ruxpin I think was another one from earlier. But yeah, so yeah,
Was that the
that
last? Was Furbies? Was that the last trending toy? Because I don't remember trending toys in my life.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure there have been other ones, but yeah, that's the last one that I can specifically remember. Yeah, I think
Which
so.
this does lead, I know. So, like, whenever I see people be like, "This movie's just trying to sell toys to kids," I'm like,
Right.
kids like toys, and it's like playing with a toy is like you literally have a time limit on how long you can play with a toy, and it's like it is a beautiful thing of childhood imagination. And I don't think it's bad that movies make it more fun to play with a toy, like Transformers. They're like, this is just exists
Right.
to sell toys. Like it doesn't, because there's actually like a very good story that people like in like the Transformers world. But then also, what is the negative in like wanting a toy that's you see in a show? Like I don't agree with that sentiment.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess just the sort of blatant kind of commercial aspect of it. It's like, yeah, to what extent is the TV show or movie just an advertisement for the toy? But yeah, on the other side of it, it's like, yeah, I mean, if kids go to see a TV or movie that they like, they're naturally going to want a toy that portrays the characters that they like in that. Yeah, I mean, that's just a natural thing that's going to happen. So yeah, it's interesting to sort of debate over that. Yeah.
Something from my generation was they used to make a video game for every hot movie that came out, and they
Oh
were
yeah.
always bad. And I
I
bought them every time,
Mhm.
and I would make myself like them.
Yeah.
I think it stopped at Iron Man 2, is when uh, pretty much they went like, we'll make an Iron Man game, but that's going to come out later. Uh,
Yeah.
and like I keep waiting for them to like sync up game releases with movie releases, but like lately it's just been like, we'll make a Spider-Man game and it'll come out when it's ready, and maybe we can sync something up with one of the movies that comes out, but it's not.
Right.
But yeah, I got the Iron Man 1 game. I got that, which
Mhm.
is like, wow, if they had more time to make this could have been good. But like the final boss fight in that, I remember, because the final boss fight in Iron Man 1, he says, how ironic. You made a suit to protect the world, to rid the world of weapons, and now I'm going to kill you with it. And that's the only line the boss says on loop for the entire fight scene. It's
Oh,
just that little audio clip. And that's burned into my brain.
oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, Back to the Future, classic classic 80s film. Uh the Back to the Future Nintendo game, one of the worst games for the Nintendo ever. And like many poorly made Nintendo games, impossibly hard. You couldn't. There's no way you could get past like the second level of it. Like it was just, it was just a cruel, horrible game. Um, yeah. So yeah, definitely. If a video game was based on a movie or a TV show, the Simpsons video games, um, other than the arcade game, were all horrible.
I liked Hit and Run,
Oh,
but
okay, yeah. I haven't played that one, but yeah,
that
the
was
very first.
noticeably like, this is better than these usually are. That was like a noticeable shift in people being like, are they going to be good now? Like games based on
Yeah,
stuff are going to start being good? And then it was like, no, just that one time.
yeah, Bart versus the Space Mutants, the Nintendo game, ridiculously, yeah, again, difficult game and difficult not for good reasons, just because the controls were horrible and yeah, so yeah.
Yeah. My favorite joke, like in Jingle All the Way, by the way, is when the mailman is saying that he like has like a bomb, because
Right.
this is from an era where that was that was the thing that like mailmen would go postal and people sent bombs
It
and
was
mail.
it was it was yeah, it was from an era where we could still joke about bombs in the mail, where that was still a funny, whimsical thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and now like watching it because I don't have the context of it ever being whimsical, so I'm watching like
Right.
that's crazy that they made that joke,
Yep.
and
Oh
because
yeah.
at one
Yeah.
point, because he's like, no, it wasn't a bomb, and there's a squad of police officers, and he's like, it's not a bomb, and then you just
Oh
get a
yeah.
shot of a tower and
Right.
then an explosion, and the guy's like, oh, it
Yeah.
was a bomb. There's some sick people, and I'm like. Because I was dying laughing seeing that because they cut to them very cartoonishly with like black smoke. Like,
Oh yeah. 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 No, it's yeah, it's totally a, Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, just yeah, yeah, just ash on his face, his hair is up. Yeah, that's the only damage that a bomb would do if it exploded in a building. Yeah, nothing
and
more than
also
that.
because I'm like, well, because if you don't include that scene of them with the Looney Tune, because this is the because I saw like a lot of video essays talking about how like the thing with the movie is it gets more and more cartoony as it goes on, and at
Right.
the end the main character kind of embraces the cartooniness, and then
Oh
he
yeah.
starts breaking the laws of physics and becomes like a cartoon character.
Mhm.
But like if you don't include that little shot of them with the Bugs Bunny explosion in this film at the
Oh yeah.
midway point, a squad of police officers got blown up.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's like there was this horrible explosion at a building in downtown. Where is it? Minneapolis, I think it is. Yeah, 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 yeah. Just yeah, this explosion happens. Yeah. Okay. Next scene. Yeah.
They're like, we gotta go to the next. I got a new lead on the toy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, no, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of interestingly sort of dark things in this movie. Like, yeah, I mean, also the Jim Belushi character as the like crooked Santa Claus who has that like black market thing that he takes Arnold Schwarzenegger to. He's like, hey, yeah, we got we got these toys down here. Yeah, if you and yeah, that part was fun and but yeah, maybe not quite something for a kids movie, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's Jingle All the Way, and now
Yeah.
for the big finale.
Okay, yeah. So big finale. So yeah, my number one Christmas movie is Miracle on 34th Street, which is a movie that came out in 1947, black and white movie. Uh but this is a movie that I love because even though it is so old, it doesn't really feel that old to me in terms of its overall sensibility. It's not sentimental. It's not treacly the way a lot of Christmas movies from that era are. Like It's a Wonderful Life. Although I I, I like that movie as well, but this movie it's very and again, some people might have sort of resistance to older movies, but I feel like if you actually watch a lot of older movies, you'll see, wow, these people like the sensibility of these movies is much more sort of modern and even kind of cynical in ways than you would expect from from older movies. And so I think that's something I really like about the movie. But at the same time, there is an overall sort of warm sentiment to it, but it's not overly sentimental. It sort of earns it by sort of honestly portraying the way things are. But yeah. So your reactions to it?
So I'd never seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I knew that there was a specific scene in it that I'd seen parodied in The Simpsons,
Right.
and that's all I knew going in. And I'll be
Uh-huh.
honest, I went in like, okay, so this is gonna be what year was this made? Okay, I might be on my phone most of the time. Um,
Yeah.
and it did not take long for me to like put my phone down. I was actually just watching it, and I was like, this is nice. This is like a nice
Yeah.
movie, and like the way people talk, they're very like everyone's pretty reasonable except for like the one guy, and even then it
Right.
is like he's kind of right because this is ridiculous, but like I was really impressed because I was thinking like, wow, to modernize this, you need to change very little. If
Right.
you were to be like, we're going to make a modern version of this movie,
Hmm.
you don't change much. Like, I really think it is like timeless because I was like,
Yep.
what do you even change? People
Hmm.
still send letters to Santa. That's still like a thing.
Yep.
And so like any changes would just be like trivia stuff in the background where like now the kid's on the phone, I guess. Like what nothing about this needs to be modernized.
Hmm. Yeah,
I was
there was a remake of this movie that came out in the 90s, which is also pretty good. But I think even that version of it gets a little more kind of sweet and sort of sentimental about things that in a way that this movie really avoids, I think. Yeah.
yeah, there was the because there's the thing with the busy business mom and she has
Uh-huh.
the girl
Hmm.
and she doesn't want the girl believing in Santa. She told her like Santa's not real.
Right, right.
And then like there's like a guy who's like kind of like, come on, get into the spirit of it. And then they just have like an actual real conversation about that, where
Hmm.
like she's just like, look, like I want my daughter to be prepared for the world. I told her he's not real. So like I
Yes.
don't appreciate you like going around behind my back like this. Like please respect like my wishes. I was like, this is very interesting because I'm like, there's no like right or wrong here. This is two people having a conversation. And like the guy
Right.
doesn't go like, ah, you're wrong. He goes like, he doesn't even really. You could just see like he realized like, oh, I didn't realize it was that serious. And it was like this is every character is like, and also like how the businesses are like, for we're gonna the goodwill of this. We can market off that, and then you see the CEOs be like, "This will be great. We're going to be the nicest people ever, and we'll make more money in the end doing that." I was like, "That's funny."
Right,
This is
right,
like
right.
very. This is a very charming, funny movie. I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed it.
That's great. That's great. Good. Glad to hear it. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, the basic plot rundown. Yeah. I mean, in case anybody doesn't know what it is basically yeah. So this man appears in New York right before the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, and he's horrified that the Santa in the parade is drunk, and he basically reprimands him, and then the woman who's running the parade is like, oh well, yeah, can you be our Santa instead, and so he does it, and he's great, and he gets hired as the Macy's Santa that the kids go to, and as things progress, yeah, they're looking into the guy's background. They're like, okay, well, yeah. Where does he say he's from? He says he's from the North Pole. Okay, his real name is Kris Kringle, and so this guy seems to actually think that he is the real Santa Claus, and basically things progress to the point where there's a misunderstanding that Kris Kringle has with a psychiatrist type guy, and so he gets put on trial.
Yeah, I
Uh,
guess that psychiatrist was also a soccer player because he gets a little tap on his head and he goes like, oh heavens, and then
oh yeah.
he very
Right, right,
clearly pretends to be her.
right. Yeah, and so yeah, I think probably yeah, the most famous part of this movie, yeah, is are the courtroom scenes where yeah, Kris Kringle goes onto the stand and is being questioned, and yeah, it's basically about, okay, well, is there a way to sort of legally prove that this man actually is Santa Claus, or to prove that Santa Claus does or does not exist? And so there's a lot of interesting issues that get into that it gets into with that. But yeah, so I think that this movie is great for sort of portraying the way that Christmas is sort of celebrated in modern times. And I mean, again, this movie was made in the 40s, but I think a lot of what it portrays is still a lot of things that happen, at least in big cities during Christmas, with yeah, department stores, with Santas, and yeah, and the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade, and all of these things, which are very much a sort of part of the sort of American commercial aspect of Christmas. But through all of that, it still sort of shows the real meaning of Christmas in it as well. And so I think that's really what makes this a very strong Christmas movie in my opinion. Yeah.
There's also because she pulls up, which the mom who works at like the Macy's.
Mhm.
As it is weird that it's just straight up Macy's, and like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
an actual company that they're in it. But like she pulls up his business card, like his employee ID card, and I went to go pause the movie because I'm
Yeah.
so used to like things being like Easter egg details that
Right.
like because it shows like his identity. It says like address, North Lane, name Chris
Mhm.
Kringle. So I went to go pause it, and then I realized like, oh, the movie's actually just gonna let you like see it, and they're
Right.
not.
Right.
It's not a little detail for someone to make a video that says 10 things you missed in Miracle on
Right.
34th Street. Um,
Hmm.
that's a reference to where Santa lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that was the only time that I, as a modern audience, was like, I like how I'm set up for seeing details in movies is like expecting them to
Right.
like
Right.
skip past it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. No, it's very accommodating. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I think there's a lot of the guy who plays Santa Claus in this movie actually won an Oscar for it. So as far as I know, this is the only Oscar-winning portrayal of Santa Claus in a movie. So that's one reason to recommend it. And yeah, I think there's a lot of great performances in this movie. Yeah, the little girl is played by Natalie Wood, who would later go on to do a lot of other things as an adult actress. And yeah, so this is her first movie. Yeah, but yeah, other than that, yeah, I just think it's a great overall Christmas movie. Funny, heartfelt, and yeah, I would highly recommend this one.
Yeah, there was a scene with him and a Dutch girl where like there's like
Yeah.
a like that actually got me to tear up. I was like, I am in this movie. I don't
Right.
know when it happened, but like I just realized like my phone's gone. I'm just watching it, and then he's just like singing a Dutch song. And I was like, that's so
Hmm.
sweet. This is such a sweet
Yeah.
guy.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
believe, and he eventually ends up in a mental institution. I also like, during the trial scene, it's pretty clear that no one's really taking this that seriously.
Right.
Like
Well, yeah.
in the movie, the jury is pretty much a studio audience, and they're very clearly having fun with what's happening right now.
Right. Right. Yeah. 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 Another thing I noticed about the trial scenes that I got a kick out of was the judge. Yeah. There's the judge, and then there's this other character who is like the judge's like political like consultant or something. There's like so many uh, times where the judge is like about to make some decision, and he's not sure if he's going to make the right decision, and then he looks out into the audience, and his consultant, he's got this cigar, and he's like, and he always, yeah, he like winks at him. He's like, you know what to do. Yeah, that happen. Yeah, I feel like that happens at least 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, like you see people like, what should we do? Should we go? And then like they imagine like newspapers saying like judge
Yeah,
sent
yeah,
it,
yeah.
judge canceled it. I was like, all right, well let's actually. So it's like
Right, right.
because you're like, why didn't like legally? Yeah, like why is it no one taking the series? The judge like, I don't want that to be on my record that I sentenced Santa to jail. That's gonna be bad.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um, it's a lot of. I like too that like the what I thought was going to be the slimy businessman who's like, I don't like that this mole Santa is doing
Right.
this stuff. And then once he finds out that like his bosses are okay with it, he's like, oh, great. Because I was like, oh, that's fair. He had a very fair reaction because he's like, well, that's not what I was told that you should do. Like, you shouldn't
Hmm.
be telling people to just go to another store. Like, and then when he finds out his bosses are okay with it, like, I thought, oh, he's going to be the bad guy who's
Right,
like,
right.
that man, but then he's like super on board for it. And I was like, oh, like everyone's pretty nice here. That one psychologist. And then
Right.
he wanted to be able to get away with it, but like Santa like just got depressed. So he like well Chris Kringle got depressed and he like failed a test on purpose. He's like, well, I'm done.
Right.
That was a funny joke too because he gets like a warm up speech. He's like, "Come on, let's go back." He's like, "You're right. Let's leave." And like, well, you can't leave. You failed your psych evaluation. He's like, "Right."
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
That was one of my favorite jokes because he just goes like, "Well,
Mhm.
you'll figure something out," and it's just like,
Oh
"Yeah,
yeah.
it's
Yeah. Oh yeah. Also, yeah. I mean, for people that aren't used to the style of stuff in older movies, so yeah, this is a movie from the '40s that takes place in New York, which means that every character in this movie either speaks in a British accent or as like some guy from Brooklyn. Like there's yeah, you either have like the working class people who are like, "Hey Mac, how are you?" Or you have the higher class people who are like, "Oh, hello, yes, I am American, and
yeah."
this is how high class Americans speak." Yes,
Where
yes.
everyone is wearing a suit the
Every,
entire movie.
that's
No
right.
one just wears a shirt and jeans.
Yeah,
Everyone is all dressed up in New York, which maybe I'm like, because that might be a California thing. Because
mm-hmm.
it's weird to me to see anyone like wearing beyond like a scarf in California, unheard of. Because
Oh sure.
that's the thing. Like if you want to be fashionable, it needs to be cold enough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, because I guess everyone dresses. Maybe everyone dressed up back then because you could. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, everyone's in suits. The business mom, she's wearing shoulder pads. I'm like, those were a thing. And
Right.
yeah, they talk very plainly. Like the girl, especially, she's like, and I want this, but I know I can't have it, and I think that's fair because mother works hard, and
Right. Right.
she'll get me a gift as long as it's reasonable and within her means. And
Right.
it was also like, yeah, she's not doing a bad job raising that girl. Like she did, like
No.
she's raising her right.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just
Yeah.
you probably should
Mhm.
have let her believe in Santa for a bit. That's like that's the stake. Originally that's the stakes of the plot until he goes to a mental institution. But like the stakes is like let her play. Let her play with like pretend to be a monkey. Pretend to you got to have an
Right.
imagination.
Right. Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, whether you believe in Santa Claus or not, yeah, I mean, that's one thing. But yeah, we find out that it extends to the point where this girl does not know stories like Jack and the Beanstalk or anything, because it turns out that her mother, yeah, just, yeah, no fairy tales at all. No, you're just going to read the New York Times,
Yeah.
and
The world is a
that's your,
cruel place, and you need to get used to
that's
that.
right.
And there's no Jack and Jill. There's no fairy tales. Those aren't real. And
That's
that's
right. That's right. Yeah.
it's just like yeah, it's not abusive. It's just like come on, let her learn about a fairy tale.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's only got like 2 years left to even care about this. So like,
Right. Right.
I liked that setup and how the child reacts to things. And you can tell she like wants to play and stuff. She's like, it's not right and proper. Why should I pretend to be an animal? I'm a human being. I'm not an ape. And then
That's
Santa's
right.
like, well, come on, let's come on. We're gonna. There's just a scene where he just teaches her how to pretend to be a monkey. I'm like, this is nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the
Yeah.
whimsy of
Yeah.
childhood. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. So yeah, it looks like we more or less agree on most of the movies that we've
More
talked
or
about,
less.
with maybe one notable exception.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I forget. I really don't like movies or stuff like that much. I like one thing, and I'm just gonna like that for the rest of my life. So like for Jingle All the Way, I like that when I was a kid. I still like it. I don't really branch out that much. So
Hmm. Hmm. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
that's not fine. It's a problem, but yeah, that's just how I am. I forget that I really I like exploring new stories when I find them, but it's really hard for me to like want to even explore new stories. Not like with books and comic books, and well, I'm over comic books actually, but
Hmm.
mangas are still fun for me. Uh,
Okay. Okay. Any good Christmas manga?
no,
Yeah. I wasn't expecting there to be any, but yeah. Okay.
because that's weird because it's like Christmas is supposed to be a Christian thing, and it's really I don't think it is because like my family is
No,
not religious.
not anymore. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, we celebrate Christmas, and it got to the point where I asked, like, are we? religious? And it's like, no, we'll celebrate the holidays because it's fun, but like, yeah, they don't have. I don't. I mean, I guess they do. Also, it's not as big of a deal over there. I think there was one where a guy does become Santa or something, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's good Christmas comic books. That's a popular thing in DC and Marvel. They'll do that every now and then.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, there was a great in the original black and white Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic book. Yeah, there was a Michelangelo special that took place during Christmas, and yeah, and again, and it was kind of a jingle all the way kind of where yeah, there was like this special toy that all the kids wanted, and Michelangelo like helps deliver those stuff. Yeah.
That's like Marvel will do like there's a mutant that travels around at super speed and delivers gifts, and then like one of the superheroes will try to prove that he's not Santa, and then they can't, and they're like he's an omega level mutant, and
Right.
he lives here, but no one can find him, and I think he's been in some DC stories.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure he gave Batman some sort of gift for being a good boy or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, at least one of the Batman movies, I think Batman Returns is another one of those movies that like, there could be some debate over whether or not it's a Christmas movie because yeah, it does take place during Christmas, but again,
That's
yeah.
what I was thinking. There's a bet like they never really specify when his parents got shot. But
Right.
I think I remember one of them was it was around yeah there was a Batman cartoon. I think it was Brave and the Bold. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I actually really liked the way they handled this. So like in this version of Batman, they do the the alley movie scene, but the reason it happened was Bruce Wayne on Christmas he got a gift and he was like being a spoiled brat about it. And he's like, I want to go watch a movie, and so they're like, oh okay, so they take it. So he's like, so like that's another reason for his like issues is like in his head, if he just wasn't a brat for one day,
Right.
his parents wouldn't have gotten shot, which um and so that's like another reason he has this guilt complex about it. And I think he beats people up more on Christmas or something. But
Good. Good.
as a gift for the nice people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
All right. Well, yeah, I think we've thoroughly covered our Christmas classics, and I hope that this gives people some ideas of what to watch if they don't already have them. So yeah,
yeah. All right. Let's. This is gonna. It's crazy. It's the 20th, and I'm like, wow, this month really just went by, didn't it?
yeah, flew by. Yeah,
That's the thing. I gotta wait for something for like a month, and I'm at a point now where I'm like, well, thanks to the inevitable march of time, a month really just flies by. At
hmm
my age, I got to the point where a month is a week now for me.
right, right.
Where like when people say, "Oh, this game will come out in 2 years," I'm like, "Well, luckily that'll just creep right on by me." And
Yeah, I mean, you'll be able to travel through time just like Frank Burley. Uh, yeah,
hey,
yeah. There you go.
I was
Reference.
I was playing with AI art. I don't know if you do that. Have you seen like
Mm-hmm.
AI art? On one
Oh
level, it's like
yeah, 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 yeah. I've seen that. Yeah.
I tried creating like a thing of Frank Burley in that by combining Chris Farley and Cyberpunk, and it didn't really work out, but I was like, if I could figure out how to do this, I could start. Because my issue with the Time Machine did is there's no art at all for it.
Right. That's
So that's
true.
my new project.
Okay, that sounds fun.
So this is coming out around Christmas time too. Well, actually, it is Christmas right now because if
Mhm.
we film these on the day they come out. And
They do. Yeah, 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 yeah. We do. Yeah.
so, what do you have to say to all the children of the world?
Um, if you have some special toy that you're looking forward to this Christmas, remember that that really stresses out your parents, and you should just cut them a break. That's what I've learned.
Yeah, that's actually the main moral of the movies. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.